Do you want to know how I control weeds in my lawn? Stick around and find out. All right, folks, welcome back to the Lawn Shark channel. So you may be wondering why I'm laying here in my grass. Well, it's to talk about weeds. And one of the things that I want to make sure that everybody understands is that I don't really love chemicals. I'll use them. You guys have seen me use T-Zone, especially when I was talking about clover in the backyard. And mostly because the backyard, we have fescue. It's a little bit taller. It's hard to really get in there and pull weeds. But up here in the front, so far, and here's the thing I want you guys to understand. I am not against chemicals, but I try to avoid them as much as possible and for as long as possible. So for instance, I've got a little bit of clover right here. And one of the ways that I control clover in my lawn is to actually just go around and just pull it out of the grass. And one of the things that I've talked about in years past, especially in my other house, was that pulling weeds is a little bit therapeutic for me. I actually really enjoy doing it. And part of it is, I can come out here during any kind of weather, whether it's rainy or it just rained. And after rain is like the best time to do it because the ground is nice and soft. Everything wants to come out. And it keeps my grass from having to deal with chemicals, which actually stunt the growth just a little bit. Now it's temporary, I understand that. And again, I'm not trying to tell you that chemicals are a bad thing for all circumstances. I do want to try to avoid using chemicals as the first trigger pull. I really do want my lawn to be as weed-free as possible. I get a lot of comments from people that say, oh, clover is great and you should just do clover and all this other stuff. And you know, I am not against clover. Clover is actually really good for your lawn. It brings in a lot of natural nitrogen, and so it's good for that reason. However, most of us who are lawn enthusiasts, myself included, again, I want to remind everybody, this is a lawn channel, so I'm talking about lawns, right? And so for me, my lawn, I want to have it as weed-free as possible. I've got Bermuda up here. I'm growing it at about 1/2 inch, and it's really starting to kick in really well. I've got a little bit of perennial ryegrass still in here, but it's actually going to start moving out pretty quickly. We hit 92 degrees. As soon as we start getting into those 90-degree temperatures, the humidity and the heat here in Nashville are going to really kill off all of that perennial ryegrass pretty quickly. But the Bermuda is kicking in really nicely. And so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to control my weeds as much as possible. I'm coming out here pretty much every day, and I just go through and I pull as much of this stuff as I can. And if I see some more, and this patch right here just keeps coming, and it's going to continue to come until I actually use some sort of a chemical on it. But I'm trying to avoid using chemicals as much as I possibly can. You know, to kind of get back to on subject as to what I was saying, well, how do I do weed control? Well, you guys have seen me use T-Zone for weed control in pretty much most of my lawn. When I start getting into like things like clover, or if I'm dealing with spurge or some other type of weed, it's a great product. A little bit of 2,4-D in there. There's other chemicals in there that actually work to help control that. But for the purposes of this front lawn, if you look at my lawn right now, it actually looks really good. It's nice and green, it's lush. I have not leveled this lawn, which is actually super surprising to me because I put down this sod late last summer and I didn't do any leveling whatsoever, but it's actually nice and level. My reel mower is doing great. I'm at 1/2 inch, like I said, and it's actually cutting really nicely. However, I am gonna put down a bunch of sand, and when I do that, I wanna have my lawn as healthy as possible. And I don't want to put down a bunch of chemicals that are actually going to stunt some of that growth, because I want it to be in as good a shape as possible when I'm doing that, because the sand is going to stress it out a little bit. So for me, you know, I do as much weed pulling as I possibly can. I actually enjoy it. Like I said, it's very therapeutic. I come out here at the end of the day after a long day of work, and I just sit here and I look for the clover. And the thing about clover is it kind of grows almost like rhizomes, like the Bermuda does. And so if you kind of grab, it's really short right now, so I'm having a hard time. But if you grab one of them, it actually kind of all comes out in one shot. And that pretty much takes care of everything. Now, if you look throughout my lawn, there is hardly anything other than Bermuda in it right now. And it's one of the things I love about Bermuda. Bermuda actually starts growing with those rhizomes, and it really gets real thick, real fast. And especially for as often as I'm cutting this lawn, and I'm cutting this lawn every other day as much as possible. We had lots of rain this week, so I couldn't get to it, and I couldn't do it pretty much every day that I wanted to, but I was able to cut it pretty often. And the more I cut it, the more it wants to grow, the happier it is. and I'm pretty happy with the way it's looking. Am I going to say this is my best lawn that I've ever had? Well, you know, it's still early. I mean, we just hit summer. June 22nd was the first day of summer, and I think that summer is to be determined this year. Last night we had temperatures at 60 degrees for our low, and then we hit 91 degrees. So you gotta think it's going to get hotter from here. We've had pretty mild summer, pretty mild spring this year, and I think that's a good thing and a bad thing because we haven't really seen the full effect of summer. That being said, you know, July and August are coming, whether you like it or not, whether you like the heat or not. You don't have a choice in this one. And the Bermuda's going to love it. It's going to grow really thick, and it's going to choke out most of the weeds. However, I do have some weeds that are coming. Obviously, I've got a lot of this clover still in my lawn, but for the most part, I'm taking care of it just by, you know, as I spot it, and I spot it early, pull it out, don't have to worry about it. Now, in a month or two, when the temperature starts getting up into the 90s and mid 90s, and we're probably going to hit 100, we always do, but when we hit 100 degrees, that's like prime growing for weeds. The good news is this year I'm not dealing with perennial ryegrass. I'm not dealing with Kentucky bluegrass. I have the absolute best, in my opinion, lawn for the heat, which is this Bermuda, and I'm super excited to see what's going to happen. Now, in a couple weeks, I'm going to do a video, and I'll show you guys what I'm going to be doing next, which is to level this lawn. This Bermuda up here in the front is right around 2,000 square feet. My plan is to put down 3 yards of sand, which actually is a little bit more than I probably need to put down, but I don't care. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna literally turn this front lawn into a beach, and then we're gonna see what happens. And from there, I think we're gonna have a nice, smooth Bermuda that we're gonna be able to reel mow. And then got a little thing that I'm working on as far as like putting greens are concerned up here at the front. My neighbors are either gonna love it or hate it, or they may think it's interesting. But you guys know I don't really care. So we're gonna do it. And that's one of the next big projects, is to turn this thing into a putting green. Again, I'm not gonna be obnoxious about it, but yeah. So we've got some custom made stuff that's coming in here pretty soon, and we'll be able to do that. So anyway, that's pretty much my plan for weed control. I like T-zone. I like weed and feed works really great. The Scott's weed and feed works fine. I mean, for the average homeowner, if you want to control weeds in your lawn, just put down a weed and feed. Scott's has a great product. Lesco has another great product. It basically is going to take care of most of the weeds in your lawn, and it's going to go ahead and feed your lawn. I don't recommend doing the weed and feed for every application, just because it does put a lot of that herbicide into your lawn. But you know, a couple times a summer, I think that's perfectly fine. But if you have a major weed problem, which obviously I do not, then go to something a little bit harsher. You know, the 2,4-D that comes in the T-zone. Go ahead and use T-zone. I think it's got a couple different products in there that work really, really well. And that to me is kind of a last resort type of thing when it comes to weed control. But for me personally, I like pulling it. If you haven't tried it, do it. It actually works really well, and you don't stunt the growth of your lawn, and the lawn actually stays really nice and healthy. So for all of you naysayers out there that say, oh, you should just turn your lawn into green is good and, you know, let it all be clover, I'm like, hey, if that's your thing, go for it. I mean, one of my neighbors here, he has tons of clover. His lawn looks amazing. It's nice and green. It's always growing. But for me, I just want the Bermuda to be as pure as possible. So that's the plan for the summer. Stay tuned. We've got lots of things happening in the summer. We're going to really do a lot of maintenance. We're not going to talk about the fescue in the back right now. The fescue in the back is it's a little stressed out, I will say, and it's a little bit nerve-wracking, simply because I haven't had fescue in a very long time. But I'm pretty excited about how it's going to transition into a dormancy at this point, and then in the fall is really when it's going to kick in again. And so I'm pretty excited about that. But right now we're going to concentrate on the front. The Bermuda is where it's at. I'm super excited. So stay tuned. We got lots to come. So anyway, hopefully you guys liked this video, and if you did, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe if I've earned your subscription, and if you want to be notified of future videos, don't forget to hit that bell, and maybe next time I won't be laying here in the grass. See you on the next one.